Thanks for watching today's video of The Completionist. Today's episode is brought to you in part by Skyforge, coming this fall to the Nintendo Switch. What is Skyforge? Skyforge is a free-to-play MMORPG based in a sci-fi world that is constantly evolving, and soon you'll be able to play it whenever you want on the go on the Nintendo Switch. For those of you who don't know what Skyforge is, it's a free-to-play sci-fi action MMO set in the breathtaking world of Alien. You play as an immortal with amazing celestial powers, and you can team up with players and friends all around the world to explore and defend the massively, constantly evolving universe. Not only is the game free to download and play, but it receives constant free update patches all the time, so you can enjoy your adventure 24/7 without limits. And with it being on Nintendo Switch, that means you've got multiple options on how you want to play this game. Tabletop mode, handheld, with a pro controller, whatever way you'd like. And coming soon, invasions will be happening, which are limited time seasonal events that will truly test your skill. As creatures from the deepest trenches invade beyond the stars, and evil avatars of destruction threaten to destroy Alien, you must stand and fight. And you can purchase an invasion pass to earn special rewards, including exclusive in-game cosmetics. And that, my friends, is Skyforge. If you want to sign up today, head over to the link on screen right now, or click the link down in the box below to be the first to find out about how you can get information on when the game's getting released and how to receive exclusive gifts. Again, click the link in the box down below. Signing up and playing the game supports the show. So hey, why not play an awesome free-to-play MMORPG and support the show at the same time? Thank you for watching, and thank you again to Skyforge. Enjoy today's video. Odds are you yourself have a favorite Avenger, even if you've never picked up a comic book in your life. Marvel's team of superheroes headline the biggest movie franchise in the world, and pretty much everyone has a favorite. And mine is the Incredible Hulk, because yes, Iron Man's funny and Cap is righteous and good, but Hulk is the strongest one there is. The madder he gets, the stronger he gets. So an opportunity to smash things as the Hulk is not just something I can pass up on, but the new Avengers game aims to provide that sort of experience no matter who your favorite is. And even in a game that's received its fair share of criticism, that's too appealing to pass up. Now, I'm definitely worried about the type of ongoing live service game that Crystal Dynamics decided to make here, especially from a completionist standpoint. But if the core experience of being an Avenger can rise above some of that nonsense, then it may still be worth it. Hey everyone, and welcome back to an all-new episode of The Completionist, where we don't just beat the games, we complete them. Now, first and foremost, I have to inform you guys, like I do in all these videos in which I get new games early, this was a free product handed to me by Square Enix and Crystal Dynamics, hashtag free product. The things you see around me have also been given to me from them, hashtag free product. However, what you are about to witness and hear today is a very divisive review, I would say. I have put a lot of time, effort, and research into this game from the beginning to its inception to today. I feel that I have acquired enough of an ability to discuss freely what I think about this game. However, you're going to hear things from me that praise this game a lot. You're going to hear a lot of things that make me crap on this game a lot. And more importantly, those two things are going to clash and sound super hypocritical as we discuss them. I'm going to try my best to explain exactly what went right and what went wrong with this title, and more specifically, how I feel in the end, because at the end of the day, if I could describe this game without you guys even seeing this video in one sentence, this is the best C+/B- game I have ever played. And I never give ratings like that because I don't believe in them. However, I think that will set the stage for you guys today as I look towards the future of completing Marvel's Avengers. Let's begin.
Here comes a new challenger! Yes! Danger!
You know, it's crazy to think that there was once a time where the general public didn't know who Iron Man was. But ever since the MCU bursted into existence faster than you can say shared cinematic universe, he and the rest of the Avengers have been a household name. But even though the general public is now way more familiar with Marvel's vast stable of characters, that success didn't immediately translate to the world of video games. Batman has the Arkham games, but when it comes to Marvel games over the years, they were pretty hit or miss. But then then we got Sony's Spider-Man, which finally gave the web slinger the big budget AAA success he's always deserved, and even managed to do so in a year that was inundated with like 5 different versions of Spider-Man. So it makes sense that the next logical step is for the Avengers, some of the most popular characters in the world, to get their own big deal game. In fact, it's wild that it even took this long. So when it was announced that Square Enix and Crystal Dynamics were working on a big mysterious Avengers game, the hype was real. And then we got to look at E3, and the response was kind of muted. Part of this is probably the fact that we're so used to one specific version of the Avengers that even though Square Enix assembled a who's who of voice acting talent, it still feels weird to see versions of Thor or Iron Man that look just different enough from Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Hemsworth to feel kind of uncanny and weird. The initial impression is that these are the off-brand Avengers, ever so slightly different from the ones that just made $1 kajillion with Endgame. But that's not really the game's fault here. And I thought the designs for the new Avengers were actually really good, given the challenge of differentiating them from the movie versions while still making the characters feel iconic, familiar, and true to where they came from. But there was also the fact that it took kind of a long time for it to become clear what sort of game this is. The early looks at the opening sequence teased a big narrative adventure, but it soon became apparent there was also a major online component, and it was sort of hard to square those two impressions. So now the game is here, and that's honestly still true. This game has a story-driven campaign, but the lines of that campaign blur with the ongoing online looter shooter side of the game. And it's almost like one type of game just ate a different type of game. The solid single player adventure game got consumed by this massive other thing, and it's still in there, crying to be let out, because the campaign here actually has an incredibly solid hook and a pretty fresh take on how to tell an Avenger story. We start out in the point of view of a young Kamala Khan, an Avengers superfan attending A-Day, where the Earth's mightiest heroes are supposed to show off their dope new helicarrier. Except things don't go as planned, and during an attack, the helicarrier overloads, seemingly killing Captain America, destroying San Francisco, and releasing a Terrigen mist that awakens powers in people all over the globe. 5 years pass, and the Avengers are hated and nowhere to be found. And Kamala is one of the many Inhumans with new powers, being hunted by the villainous AIM, who have taken over in the Avengers' absence. AIM is pumping out robots and kidnapping Inhumans at an alarming rate, so Kamala does what any hero would do. She sets off on an adventure to bring the Avengers back together and take AIM down once and for all. Now, Kamala is a really fun choice for the lead character of this game, and it's cool that more people will get familiarized with her before her Disney Plus show launches sometime in the next couple of years. But her shape-shifting powers also really suit themselves to fighting through large swarms of enemies, stretching her arms, and enlarging her fists to smash enemies almost as well as the Hulk does. Each of these Avengers has a wildly different moveset, but they're all built around dodging, countering, and managing huge crowds of AIM goons, along with the occasional supervillain. All the missions in the game can be played in single player or with friends, and other than combat, usually revolves around simple objectives like controlling a series of access points, taking out an elite squad of enemies, or defending shield agents. Completing more missions and finding strong boxes earns you more loot, which makes your heroes more powerful, which of course feeds back into the endless cycle that is this game. Because here's the thing about Marvel's Avengers. This is clearly not a game built with completionists in mind. Not only are we going to be getting a steady influx of new heroes and missions, but there's a reason you've never seen me try to complete Destiny on this channel. This game is meant to be an endless live ongoing service, all with the goal of eating up your time, your money, or sometimes both. Yes, there are microtransactions and an endless number of skins, nameplates, and emotes, all of which are constantly rotating and changing every single week. So when I decided to complete this game, I had to sit down and have a conversation with myself about what that even means in the context of this game, because games like this are essentially a middle finger to people like me. And yet, I love the Avengers. Unlike most videos on the show, I'm going to throw a lot more moments where I'm going to share my thoughts and feelings of things that we discovered upon the completion process. It's important to know that as we completed this game, it went from getting things like get all the comic books, get all of the audio drops, get all the codexes, beat all the missions in the campaign, get all the trophies, get all the characters to maximum level, own every costume, own every single in-game costume that requires real money. That was the original completion criteria. That has changed significantly as we wrote this video, because in the end, a lot of things I described are uncontrollable. I can't get every comic book by choice. I can't get every audio codex or behind the scenes look thing by choice. I can't actually get both the in-game and the out-game resource management money stuff to buy all the costumes, takedowns, nameplates, etc. because it's all randomly generated. There is no way for me to set and establish a true completion criteria today, because this game in its current state is not designed to be completed the way that we all think it should. So, what does that mean right now? In my opinion, I'm defining it right now. To complete Marvel's Avengers requires you to get the platinum. That's it. And even in getting the platinum, that is a journey in itself that some people, many people today, still cannot get. And I really want to smash things as the Incredible Hulk because he's the strongest one there is. So I decided to go for it. And even though certain elements aren't really completable as it currently stands, just getting all the trophies alone is still going to take a decent amount of grinding. And if all the grindy, microtransaction-y nonsense ends up making me mad, then so be it, because the madder the completionist gets, the stronger he gets. And that's canon, bitches. Look it up. I think it's pretty obvious that if I were designing my perfect Avengers game, this isn't exactly what I would come up with personally. It would be a more completion-friendly, narrative-driven adventure without as much emphasis on the ever-shifting online components. But the crazy thing about this game is that even though there are all of those other elements, my perfect Avengers game is here. It's just buried underneath all that other stuff. But the core gameplay elements and the way that it feels to play as each of the Avengers, honestly, really worked for me. I've been describing this game as though Destiny and the latest God of War decided to have a baby. And oh, by the way, that baby is the Hulk. And God of War, which shares a combat designer with this game, actually set a pretty great example of a loot-driven game in a single-player context. And when this game leans into that direction, it really shines. I actually want to go character by character, but the God of War comparison is obviously most apparent in Thor's gameplay, which involves throwing Mjolnir and then calling it back to you, much like Kratos did with his axe. It felt awesome in God of War, and it feels awesome here. And there's nothing better than pinning an annoying enemy down with the hammer, punching some guys in the face, and then calling it back to you just in time to interrupt another enemy's attack, like the true God of Thunder Thor is. Thor is also one of the game's 2 flying characters alongside Iron Man, and that element alone sets them apart from everyone else in the game. Iron Man's also got a bunch of dope ranged attacks in place of his heavy attacks, and can switch between lasers, missiles, and repulsor blasts. The versatility captures the creativity of being Tony Stark, the world's smartest man. Even the universal gameplay systems like countering or the mixture of light and heavy attacks get changed up for certain characters, and I was shocked about how different they all feel. Each character has a defensive ability which changes the way they counter. Thor infuses his body with lightning, and Kamala has polymorph, which lets her morph her body to auto-dodge basic attacks, while also dealing extra damage. Her ranged attack is also just a gigantic stretchy fist, and her heroic ultimate move makes her grow to like 30 feet tall. It's so rad. The heroic moves are all cool and super character specific too, whether it's Iron Man summoning the Hulkbuster armor or Black Widow being all sneaky and invisible. Black Widow also counters enemies with a grappling hook in place of a defensive ability. When it comes to traversal, Widow and Kamala can swing from stuff, which lets them keep up with their flyers like Iron Man and Thor, and probably gives us a good idea of what Spider-Man's overall deal will be when he drops as a PS4 exclusive next year. Then we've got Captain America, who took me a little bit of getting used to, but felt awesome once I got the hang of him, and eventually would end up bouncing the shield off of like 6 dudes' faces at once and defying the laws of physics. Finally, of course, there's my big green boy, the Incredible Hulk. He's obviously designed to be tanky as hell, with a defensive rage ability that soaks up damage and turns it into more health. Beyond that, Hulk, smashes stuff. He can swing enemies around like weapons, and his ranged attack involves pulling various pieces of rubble out of the ground, which he can either throw or slam directly into enemy faces. I saw some people say that he feels too weak, but I actually disagree. The brute strength translates, and hitting one dude with another dude will never not be fun. His traversal involves chaining several jumps together, and I actually wish his jump was even more powerful to match the strength of his attacks. But bounding off of walls and over canyons does feel pretty dope. The reason I highlighted the moves of each Avenger is to illustrate that there truly are entire separate systems for each Avenger, enabling you to radically change the feel of the game based on who you're playing as. It's fine for each characters to be fun, but they're each fun for different reasons, which is exactly how it should be. Maxing out their skill trees feels important because it allows for more moves, which means that as you play Iron Man, you feel even more like Iron Man, and the Hulk feels even more like the Hulk. In general, the feel of both combat and traversal is good. In the story-driven missions, these things are really given a chance to shine, and it was during my playthrough of the campaign that I really felt for large chunks of time like I was playing the perfect Avengers game. The characters all behave basically the way we expect them from the movies and the comics, but they're all dealing with some pretty heavy stuff here, and reckoning with how much they majorly screwed up 5 years before. And watching Kamala go from fangirl to full-fledged Avenger as she gives them something to rally around is really heartwarming and great. In fact, the campaign is so good that I can't help but think about how amazing it could have been if that's where all the energy of the game had been focused. Because fighting and traversing as the Avengers isn't perfect, but it's almost there. And in the big cinematic moments, especially near the beginning of the game and the end of the game, it really feels like you're playing through a big budget MCU film, which makes it a bummer in those moments where the game loses interest in the campaign, even though it's its biggest strength. But like all ongoing games, it feels a bit incomplete. I'm down for more characters and episodes, if you will, but as always, more than anything, I just want a full, finished game that I could complete. And it's so frustrating because I feel that game fighting to emerge from within this one. The core gameplay really works, and the story is up to the standard we expect from Earth's mightiest heroes. I wanted to do all of the missions and the iconic character side missions, and even the post-game shield missions, because they felt more cinematic and alive, and because I knew there was a bit of a grind fest waiting for me at the end of it. At the end of the day, Avengers is an objective-based team looter that stars the Avengers, but the big screen superhero video game adventure of my dreams is just there under the surface and comes springing to life whenever I'm fighting Abomination or soaring over Manhattan or reuniting the Avengers to save the world. And instead of making me angry, it almost just makes me sad that it's buried under so much other stuff. Hulk's the saddest one there is. Sadder he gets, the sadder he gets. I just talked in length about the great Avengers game that's sitting at the center of the one right here. But now it's time to talk about the buggy, broken, and exploitative nonsense that it's buried under. Because, good lord, there is a lot of it. So I played the single player experience and I had a wonderful time, and I dove into the multiplayer experience, and immediately I felt overwhelmed by the amount of unclarity when it comes to things such as missions. For instance, there's the Avengers Initiative and the Avengers Reassemble line. These are two different story or campaign rathers that take place on the war table. The war table being where you choose your missions. One is focused on the single player, one is focused on the multiplayer, but both can be played in unison online for the multiplayer experience, which is super confusing because on the campaign side, there is a percentage meter regarding 100% completion for your journey in this game. However, at the time of making this video, which is literally the day this came out, it is impossible to get 100% completion on the story. It just doesn't work. In fact, not only is it impossible, I had 99% going into this video, and then I did some pickup footage, and my percentage changed. It changed. I was at 99, and now I'm at 97, and I don't know why. This is an ongoing game with a lot of microtransactions, which means that it has a lot of stuff to earn and unlock. But if you want that stuff, it's going to require one of two investments: lots of time or lots of money, which means it's incompletable by design because they're always trying to get you to come back for more. And that's assuming everything functions as intended. which it very much doesn't. The feature that feeds most into this kind of predatory cycle is the challenge cards. Each character has a card with 40 levels, which can either be unlocked gradually by doing hundreds of daily and weekly challenges per character. Each level can be skipped for a number of credits, which are one of the game's 2 currencies. As you earn levels on the card, you unlock costumes for that corresponding character, along with resources, nameplates, and emotes, more credits, and units, which are the game's other currency. Now, it's clear that these are meant to be done somewhat gradually, so you're getting a steady stream of rewards as you play. Or you can just be an insane person like me and just drop a couple $100 to buy enough credits to skip all of the cards and get everything at once, plus buy every costume and every emote and everything else in the game. Now look, I need to be clear. I do not recommend that you do this. I did it for this phrase. I did it so that you don't have to, because this is a game that makes you choose money or time. But the thing is, this disproportionality affects folks like me who feel a pathological need to get everything they can, and punishes us for wanting all the shiny stuff by telling us we either need to play it every goddamn day for the foreseeable future, or just give us some money. So I gave them my money for the sake of being able to look at those completed challenge cards without sinking my entire life into this game. But it is pretty gross. Like, don't do this. Let me be the one that jumps on the grenade for you. The game doesn't even make it easy to spend your hard-earned money for this stuff, because this UI is wildly unintuitive. Now, I've seen reports of people buying stuff in the marketplace and then it glitches out and they're just screwed, hoping and waiting for a patch to come to fix it. That really sucks. And it's all in service of accumulating gear, which already feels totally superfluous. The skill trees make you feel like you're scaling up and getting new abilities, while the gear just feels like empty stats. I hate to bring up God of War again, but it had a similar loot system, but made it feel more impactful. In Avengers, the loot doesn't even change the way you look. You need to commit the money or the time or both if you want those dope, deep cut costumes. Now, I know a lot of you guys are probably making fun of me at the fact that I spent all this money on things like the challenge cards and nameplates and the costumes and the emotes. And you're right, I did waste a lot of money. And this video isn't gonna make that money back. I'm not asking for your donations, I'm not asking for a Patreon, I'm not asking for any of that. I did it because you won't have to. I did it because I wanted to show everyone that this kind of behavior, whether it's intended or not, is not good, in my opinion. Yes, you can play the game and you can go through it. This would be very different if the game was free. The game is not free. It's $60 to get your foot in the door. And there's no battle pass, so there's no season pass yet, which means you have to just spend money to optimize your time. Yeah, you can go ahead and not spend a dime and just do those challenge cards for forever. Do you want to? Do you want to in a game that has limited missions in its current state? No, I didn't. I spent the money. I bought every in-game item that I could with real dollars, and it still wasn't enough to get everything in the game. The in-game stores swap out randomly, okay? In-game stores mean you get the credits, right, to purchase. I talked about this earlier in the video, right? The credits and the units. The units are used to buy the in-game stores. Those stores are random, obviously, but the most important thing to take away from it is that there's been items on that store that haven't swapped since the game came out. The Hulk costume of him in a suit has been on the store since launch. It's been 1 month. 1 month, and I can't buy any more costumes with the in-game currency that I've earned. I have said so much about how conflicted I feel about this game because I care a lot about this game. I'm like an addict. I love the gameplay loop. I love what I'm seeing. I love what I'm playing. Think about everything I just said and put yourself in my shoes. There's also nothing inherently wrong with the idea of a co-op centric approach, but after the campaign's done, all of the grinding and leveling up and getting new gear begins right here. It immediately kind of stops feeling like it's in service of anything. Unless you're playing with friends, it ends up feeling like work. And the times where I did team up with friends They were a ton of fun. It optimized the grind so much more and felt truer to the Avengers experience. Plus, it's the only way to really be able to replay campaign levels, which is just bonkers. At its current state, you can't replay the campaign without deleting your whole save file. What? This is one of many examples of this game having no idea where its strengths lie. The combat is actually really fun, but once there's no story to ground it, it's just an endless loop of combat and objectives, and so far towards the Destiny end of the spectrum that it kind of stops feeling like an Avengers game. And look, I get that this is the direction games have been trending in for quite some time, and I understand the impulse to make Avengers this sort of game, but it ends up feeling like the game doesn't know where its own strengths lie. Getting a steady influx of new missions and characters isn't inherently a bad thing, but most of the villain sectors and post-campaign missions that are already here are very repetitive. And if there's one thing being a freaking Avenger shouldn't be, is a grind. But a lot of the trophies here take the same approach, where it seems like they expect you to earn them naturally over a year of playing this game, which is a bummer because they're literally one of the only things that are completable in this game, except no, they are not, because even most of the trophies in this game were super buggy and would not work when they should have. I literally have been living in r/play Avengers for weeks, posting on threads, reading threads, looking at patch notes, talking to people online. There are so many bugs all over the place. It's insane. And I feel so bad for Crystal Dynamics because they're working their asses off to patch the shit out of this game. And when they put in a new patch, the game gets worse. More bugs I didn't expect before. Bugs that were there evolving. It's honestly just a bewildering mess. If the game, as it currently stood, felt complete and completable then, I'd be happy to wait for new content. But with nightmare RNG like timed missions that show up and disappear whenever they feel like it, and shops that always refresh what they have in stock, it's clear that the Avengers just isn't really interested in being that kind of game. It's obvious that I cannot recommend completing it because the game actively pushes against it. Even with buying all the challenge card levels, I have no doubt those will eventually refresh into a new season. Or at the very least, there will be a bunch of new ones with DLC characters. I kept finding myself wondering why they decided to make Avengers into this kind of game. But then I remembered the money I spent and was like, oh yeah, that's why. And you know what? I find we shouldn't encourage them. I recommend playing this game for the campaign and then sticking around for only as long as it's still fun. The best way to play it is to play with a team of 4. If you have 3 friends and you want to give this game a shot, I guarantee you're going to have a great time. That is, if you can play with your 3 friends. On Steam, PS4, and Xbox One, there are connection issues all over the place. In my multiplayer experience, I had a hard time finding friends who wanted to play the game with me, so I reached out to fans online in my community. And lo and behold, I didn't find that many people in my immediate vicinity that actually played this game. So I want to give a big thank you to Malakin and Sweet Bundy, who teamed up with me for a majority of the multiplayer experience. Without them, I would not be able to conquer most of the online stuff in terms of grinding to power levels, clearing out villain sectors, doing hives, and so much more. Which brings me to my next point. The platinum is not worth it because the trophies that are attainable are grindy and take a huge time investment. But even then, there's no guarantee that they will pop when they're supposed to. The game constantly just said, no thank you. So if a game actively resists all the efforts to complete or even finish it, then there's not really an incentive to even try. Life's too short to make being the goddamn Hulk feel like a chore. It's Hulk smash, not Hulk do busy work. He's the strongest one there is. The madder he gets, the stronger he gets. Look, this game is constantly throwing stuff at you, whether it's new gear, cosmetic items like costumes and nameplates, or collectibles like the comics, which grant a very little small passive buff. But as a result, none of it really registers as a reward, but more like a steady IV drip of content designed to keep you playing. So there's no reward for completion because this game will just be throwing new content at us until the heat death of the universe. There will always be more costumes and nameplates that you can't get unless it's that week or month that you're lucky, so I spared myself myself the stress of trying to get them all, whether you're buying or earning them naturally. But I still got a lot of them just by buying the challenge cards, and eventually would buy every single current available item with the stores from the vendors. Now, some of these costumes are really cool, and some of them are super boring, and there's also a whole bunch of them that are weird as hell, but it's really only worth going after the ones you're particularly interested in. For instance, once I had Hulk's gladiator costume, that was it. That's the only costume I'll ever need. In general, the idea of completion rewards doesn't really apply to this game. It is an unceasing faucet of content, and getting a little 100% logo next to the campaign on the war table is the closest it ever gets to completing. And here's the deal, the game is so buggy, I was lucky that I even got it to 99%. Even the most basic completion goals, this game keeps yanking away like I'm Charlie Brown trying to kick at the football, which is why I recommend playing the campaign and then feeling it out from there. Or, honestly, bail. But if you have a great time teaming with friends to complete missions and collect gear, then awesome, you can keep doing that. Earn as many costumes and nameplates as your heart desires, and then stop as the grind eats your soul or tempts you into dropping your sweet hard-earned cash into the marketplace. And since the platinum is the only meaningful measurement of completion in this game, I'd normally say, you know what, go for it. But even after the many recent patches here, it's still a mess. Trophies either didn't pop or seem to be doing so randomly, even to the point that I got these things well after I met the requirements. It's honestly debilitating and one of the worst things I've ever felt completing a game. I may check back with new characters and story missions later on, but the excitement that I felt near the beginning of my time with this game is long gone, and for now at least, I'm way over it. While I completed the Avengers, there were 29 pure death wipes. That's not including all the times that I was downed and picked up by a fellow Avenger. Well over 2,000 gear items collected, which I know because I got a trophy for it. The trophies to get 500 gear items. I collected well over 1,200, and then I randomly got the trophy. 52 trophies unlocked, meaning I actually got the platinum. And you know what? That is a rare goddamn feat. 225 total hours of playtime. And if you think that sounds like too many, yeah, you'd be right. And 425 real life human dollars of my money spent, which is probably as much as I'd even make on this video. Hulk, break even. What you guys saw here today was a video about how I loved Marvel's Avengers single player experience, but I kind of loathe the multiplayer experience, and I want to clarify that as I wrap things up. First and foremost, this game was a multiplayer experience from the get-go. It is a games as a service model designed to keep you invested based on patches, based on character drops, based on story expansions, so on and so forth, based on microtransactions, new costumes, new challenges. This is great for the longevity of this game and for the Marvel's brand, which I think people are really excited for. However, in the beginning, they advertised that there was a single player experience that was a part of the core mechanics for what this game ends up being. In the end, the single player experience and the multiplayer experience are almost the exact same with regards to gameplay and farming gameplay loops with regards to gears, loots, and levels. That's fine. I'm not mad that I got a good single player experience and a bad multiplayer experience, because in the end, they're one and the same. And in the end, I got what I wanted, which was a fun Marvel game. For me, starring the Hulk in this case. But you take all of that and you mix in all of the bugs, all of the patches, all of the microtransactions, all the things not working. This game's been out for a month, and I put hundreds of hours to complete it, and new patches are coming out and changing things. There are so many patches and so many things wrong with this game that I've had to adjust my completion criteria from the minute I started this game. So in the end, I hope you take away from this. Not everything is black and white, wrong or right. There's a ton of gray area, especially when it comes to what this game could be, should be, and ends up becoming. So, I explained a lot. Think about it as you hear my words today. Should you play this game? I think it's fun to play. Grab some friends for a weekend, play the story together, enjoy it for what it is. Is it good in its current state for a long-term investment plan with regards to chapters, characters, story expansions, and patches and features? Not its current state, and far from it. I feel bad for Crystal Dynamics because they invested so much time and effort into making a wonderful title. And what they got was something that was a shadow of what they made. And I don't know if they intended that, I know they read the comments, I know they see videos like this, I know they're on r/play Avengers trying to figure out how to make everyone happy, and I cannot fathom trying to please so many people during a pandemic. It must be super difficult. That's why this video doesn't actually matter. It doesn't matter what I think about giving it a rating of complete it or play it. It doesn't, in my opinion. But I do have to share with you what I think and feel, because it's your guys' money, it's your guys' time. I spent all this time and money for the simple thing of, is it possible to complete? And the answer is, for most cases of games as a service, no. Is it predatory? Yes. Could it have been better? Yes. Is it disappointing? Yes. Is it fun? Yes. All of these things create a massive gray area for discussion that makes it hard to make a video like this, because one, people have made their minds about this game, and two, I love completing games. I completed a game that wasn't meant to be completed. What does that mean for the ethos of the world? Hindsight, nothing. But for you guys who are playing this game, it might mean a lot. So, with that in mind, guys, I give this game my completionist rating of play it.